this up. Let's see. Oops. All right. All right. So no one is on yet. Ow. Oh, I just spilled hot tea. Ouch. Did not feel good. So nobody's joined yet, but this is going to be for everyone who is watching after. I had a great discussion with a data scientist. Her name is Erica Barker, and she showed me a paper which I already knew the concepts of, the redistribution of wealth away from the middle class to the top 1%. But she's an actual data scientist, so she showed me the article, and it had all these really cool metrics. And one of the metrics she showed me was the the relative household income for medium income people. And she very slightly fudged the calculation, and that slight fudging of the calculation made the distribution of middle class income, made it look like it dropped like a lead weight. Fortunately, the relative income of the middle class people for the past 40 years, it hasn't dropped significantly, but it also hasn't risen significantly. In the past 40 years, it's risen maybe 10, 15, maybe 18%. But if you compare that with the compensation for CEOs, and that they have seen a 1,460% increase in their annual compensation. So there's been this huge growing disparity away from the middle class. So I made a post today, and I put it on TikTok and YouTube, elaborating a little bit more. First, I mentioned the fudged up calculation, but then I mentioned how if you look at the population composition, just income-wise for people in this country, you'll see that in 1970, about 61% of America's population was middle class, and about 30% and 27% was lower income, and then like 10% was upper income. That was in 1970. But now it's different. The lower income grew by 3% from 20% to 30%, and then middle income shrunk from 61% to 51%, and the upper income bracket grew from 10% to 19%. So a lot of wealth was siphoned off of the middle class, and it really knocked the potential middle class people, some of them, into the lower income brackets. It was really crazy to see. And this is another thing. This is another thing at how this wealth accumulation was taken from the middle class primarily, at least over the past 40, 50 years. Oh, that's so good. And I wish YouTube allowed me to show this, but alas, I can't. But it is in my post. In 1970, the upper income earners earned about 7 times more than the lower income earners, and they earned twice as much as the middle income earners. That was in 1970. But if you look, hey Alex Mancinas, how you doing, Mancinas? Now, thanks for joining the YouTube. Now, if you look at today in 2022, the upper income people earn not 7 but about 10 times more than the lower income people today. And instead of just earning 2 times as much as the middle income bracket, they earn about 2.5 times as much. So that was very interesting. So like that if you just look at that distribution of income, it went from the middle class to the upper class. And when you look at the statistics, it's a very in-your-face realization of how the top 1% and the corporations, how they were just able to manipulate a lot of legislation to allow them a lot of tax avoidance, tax loopholes, and a lot of legal protections against the working class and even some middle class jobs that allowed more money to be funneled into these top leadership positions. And it wasn't all legislation, of course. It wasn't all legislation. But it definitely helped contribute to the growing trend of CEOs earning like what, thousands of times more than an employee. So if you're interested, guys, you should absolutely watch the post. You should watch the post I made today, and today is March 12th, 2025. And the post I made about this growing disparity initially, which had that slight fudging of the statistics, that was posted 2 days ago. So that was what, March 10th, 2025. Can't believe it's 2025. Now, since I only have 4 people here, could each of you like this live? And I also want to ask, 5 people now. So please, could I have 5 likes? Are any of my viewers, any of you guys, are you on my Patreon? Let me just see. Oh, and speaking of which, I did a live event and I shared it on my Patreon, but I didn't share this YouTube live. So I'm just going to share this on Twitter and Patreon. Okay, cool. Hold on, I'm just going to post a couple more. All right, here we go, guys. I'm back. All right, so my Patreon, Patreon is a site where content creators like myself can get supported by anyone who wants to subscribe to me. So if you know, if you like what I do and you want to support my work, you can go to my Patreon and you can put as little as $1 a month. Some people put 5, some people put 10. There are a couple people, believe it or not, who are just giving me $100 a month just for me to make the content that I'm making. They don't ask anything in return. It's pretty amazing. So I have added perks. It's not just, hey, completely support me, but anyone who's a paid member, doesn't matter what tier you are, you get access to like some informative content about economics. Oh, thank you so much, Alex Mancinas. That's great. And then for people who pay $5 a month or more, you get highlights of my hour-long interviews with experts in fields of like economics, finance, military, current political scientists, even agricultural workers, authors. So the parts of the discussion that have that are, I guess, the most interesting for like a minute and a half, you guys get access to that. And also, there's also going to be Patreon only lives where I don't think I have a big enough audience, or I haven't been able to aggregate enough people, but I would like to do it as soon as I can. People who pay $5 a month or more, they'll get access to just me if they want to have a discussion. And I guess it could be on TikTok too, if they want to just like have lives and have actual conversations. And then people who pay $10 a month, they get all of that, but then they also get access to just chats. So if they actually want to chat with me directly about particular topics, they get to chat with me and anyone else in the community. Now, that part's new. I just added that in. And I'm looking on what else I could provide to you guys that's of value that I could do consistently. And you know what, Alex, if you're willing to do $5 a month, thank you so much. And I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm working on it, because I think I should work on building a community, especially because TikTok cut all my funding with zero warning. This is the second time they did it. The first time it happened in November, where with no warning, my account was in good standing. I got an account review. They just cut it. And that lasted for a week, and it was really like, oh my God, and so I went to Patreon and I just, started working on YouTube, but I didn't get any money from YouTube, but I did get a lot of help on Patreon. And then they cut it again 2 weeks ago. And so the first time it was only a week, but now it's been a couple weeks. And I just, so I'm just trying to think of whatever I can do to generate the revenue again. So Alex, Alex Mancinas, you're going to be honest, with all this negative news about our economy and politics, you're afraid to pay attention. The COVID stint have me to, yeah. It's all doom and gloom. Hey, Carl Heinz, how you doing? So, Alex, I understand it's COVID really hurt a lot of people. It really hurt a lot of people's relationships. It hurt a lot of people's mental health, and I feel like the system took advantage of it because the system that we have, it 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 thrives when people are divided because it allows them to divide the sectors, the different sectors of the masses, and not like, when they're divided and they're against each other, it allows the system and our government to just exploit everyone, to pass legislation that really helps the wealthy and to do a whole bunch of other nefarious stuff. So I think COVID was a really good opportunity for the system to do that, and this is the result of it. And I know, um, I'll get to that, Carl. Now, and I think the news helped. The news, for some reason, people prefer to hear like scary stuff and angry stuff than stuff that makes them happy or calm, because saying that everything's actually okay isn't very sensational. So the news doesn't publish that, and I think it's a very good idea. Like, honestly, I don't like I do read articles, but I only get like small snippets of like mainstream news, and most of the time it's like nonsense, because if I cross-reference it, a lot of it's BS, or it's just skewed, it's biased either to fit a leftist or a rightist narrative. So I just look at statistics. If I see an article saying, "Oh, it looks like the Russian economy is weak because of oil sales," I'm like, okay, and I go to actual sites that show oil prices, Russian exports versus other exports. Well, what's OPEC doing? And then I can actually get like a valid chunk of data from that. But I rarely take the media's word for anything. So Carl, uh, like, since TikTok cut my funding, it's thrown a lot of stuff off. So yeah, I I'm just trying to get people onto Patreon. I will. I promise I will, Carl. I will. You know what? Send me a message on Patreon. Just remind me, and I'll do it. So Carl says unpopular opinion, but he loved COVID. I get it. I wasn't too afflicted by COVID either. I got to just be with my babies. We built a garden. We did a whole bunch of amazing things. I just felt bad for what was going on outside of my house. Carl says since 2020, many people went crazy, and the Russian disinformation campaign. Yes. Oh yeah, the Russian disinformation campaign, it absolutely took advantage of what was going on here, and it also took advantage of Trump's influence. And the Russians are always trying to sow distrust of our institutions and systems, and they've succeeded. I don't like slurp, that loud slurp. Wait, let me just do it quietly again. There we go. Mission success. So, I'm not sure. Oh, let's see. What do I think about Albania's GDP performance? Albania's GDP performance, haven't they been growing pretty fast? I'm pretty sure that they're one of the faster growing economies in Europe. It's just so small. And I think they have to play a tightrope. Just, they're in Europe. And I feel like, well, yeah, but the GDP isn't true. But there's something else. Albania has a history with Serbia. They also have a history with Russia. Um, and I just want, there was something going on. I think Albania is a pretty FU to Russia, but they are pretty close to, I don't know if they're neighboring Serbia, but they're pretty close to Serbia, which always gives them a little bit of pause. And Serbia, even though the people do stand against what Russia's doing, it's still, I think in the long run, Serbia will side with Russia. So, like, Albania is in a tight spot, but I think there's a lot of potential there. Yeah, well, there's a shadow economy everywhere, but Albania, I guess you could say their shadow economy is a little bit darker. And I say this as someone who's been friends with a lot of Albanians. I love Albanians. But even these Albanians will talk about that, and it's pretty scary. And if Albanians are saying that it's pretty scary, that is pretty horrifying because Albanians are some of the toughest, scariest people that I know. So Serbia is Serbia historically has been for Russia, but I've been reading that there is a growing movement of Serbians who are against what Russia is doing. Of course it's the younger generation. But I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of the population are at least outwardly saying that they are for Russia. If I could choose one country to migrate to, where would I go? I really like, if I could live anywhere, I don't know about a country, but if I could live in any city, it would be in Montreal. Montreal, Canada. I loved Montreal. I love their cheese. I love their people. It was just so happening. It was so colorful. The food was cheap. I would go to Montreal in a heartbeat, and I would learn French again, and I would teach my kids French. I used to be fluent in French, but it's been quite some time, and I haven't spoken it. Oh. Okay, guys. So I was charging my other phone, and now I'm gonna set up the TikTok live. I'm still gonna be on YouTube. I just have to go get my other phone, and I'm going to use the TikTok traffic to get me over here, to get everyone over here. You mean about the shadow economy, Kosovo? Yeah, exactly. Yes, the shadow economy in Kosovo. You're talking about the political disconnect with Kosovo and Serbia, because Kosovo does have it's an economy and it is technically a part of Serbia, even though the Kosovars say that they are not. Is that what you mean, Karl Heinz? All right, I was talking about something else. My mistake. All right, so I'm just setting up my TikTok live. A bad redistribution of. All right, guys, wish me luck, because the camera holder that I have is not the most cooperative one. Ah, okay. All right. So far, so good. All right, let's see if I missed any questions. So let me just turn this over. Hello, Kevin Bonafide. Hello, Blue Collar Carl. So, pardon me, guys. I'm just gonna be like repeating the same thing to people on TikTok. Everyone on TikTok, I will only answer comments on YouTube. So if you want to see my live, well, you could see my live here on TikTok. But if you want to interact with me, you have to comment on YouTube. Hello, John Sanchez. Good to see you. You mean that the GDP per capita is much higher? Okay, but the GDP per capita in Kosovo is much higher. That's what you're talking about, right? But also, isn't the economy of Kosovo calculated separately than at least the GDP of Serbia? If not, then I have to do more research, and I can't give you anything valid. You probably know more about that situation than I do, Carl. Thank you very much for gifting me badges, guys. And unfortunately, TikTok has violated my lives a couple times. So not only have they pulled my funding, but they've said that my lives are inappropriate. So they're keeping my lives off of the For You page. So you mean that the officially reported GDP of Serbia Yeah, so so Carl, I just want to make sure. So you're saying, I believe that the economy is actually much higher, but it's the shadow economy, so it's not recorded in the in the economy, right? Mm. Yeah, only 15 people on TikTok. This has not been my best social media month. You know, eventually it'll work out. Hey, anyone joining TikTok, feel free to go on to YouTube just because I will interact with people more on YouTube because YouTube is now the only social media platform that monetizes me. And what's interesting is like I have about like 8,700 followers on Instagram, but monetizing it, it's hard. I have no idea. Like TikTok was my breadbasket. And I think YouTube can get more, but for some reason, even though I've been asking my people on TikTok, like, hey, follow me on YouTube, out of like 380,000 people on TikTok that I have following me, I only have like 10,600 followers on YouTube. So I guess it's just such a different audience. But guys, do you have any questions? Do you guys have any questions about the current redistribution of wealth that I was just talking about in my most recent posts? Because it's pretty crazy. I already said this in the beginning of the live, but while the middle class income relative to like its peak in like the 1980s. Oh, hey, how you doing, bro? Glad you came over. But the average middle class income in America in like 1984, I guess at the peak, was about equivalent to about $75,000 today, or 72,000, I think. No, sorry, 66,000. And if you look at that from 1984 to today, our like the middle class income on average is about 81,000 a year. So it's been an increase of 15,000 bucks. That's maybe 18% growth. But if you compare the middle class income to, like, let's just say the income of CEOs, the income of CEOs in the same time period has grown by no, sorry, but since 1978, so a few years before, has grown 1,400%. So the middle class income has grown 18%, and CEO compensation has grown 1,460%. So that's about like what, 70 or 80 times more growth that CEOs have gained over the middle class. And worker productivity has increased by 70%. How has, and yet middle class income did not grow. How on earth did CEO productivity grow by 1,460%? I don't think that figure is actually possible. If anything, I bet you they are less productive now. They just think they can do more because they have master's degrees. And you need to be a special kind of stupid to have a master's degree. Sorry, I know there are a lot of smart people with master's degrees, but so many businesses get ruined by businessmen who are replaced by cocky idiots with master's degrees. So guys, if anyone has any comments on TikTok, just go on over to YouTube and I'll answer those comments there. Carl says, do I think the US will face a recession this year? I'm not sure. I thought so. I thought that the tariffs were definitely going to lead us to a huge recession, but we've seen some market corrections, but not that much. And I've spoken with an economist and a couple other finance people, and even they said they're not fully convinced that we're going to have a recession. Maybe as a result of the tariffs alone, we'll have maybe a mild recession, but maybe we'll just have very weak GDP growth as a result, worst case scenario. Now, John Sanchez says, how far do you think the redistribution will get before people do anything about it? It seems so obvious and extreme already. You're not sure why people aren't revolting more. People aren't revolting more, John Sanchez, because the system has figured out how to keep people placid. We have all these live stream apps. We have all this social media where we look at people who we think are better than us, or we look at cat videos, or we look at corn. We're so distracted by this handheld device in our face, we could get whatever content we want. As long as we keep getting that, then the system can take everything away from us. As long as we're not starving completely, and we have Amazon that serves our every need. We have all these services that serve our every need. So even if you're working class, you still enjoy a much higher quality of life than when I say quality of life, you enjoy a much more convenient life that distracts you so much more than it did 40, 50 years ago, I think. That's my thing. They flood you with convenience, but it doesn't it doesn't give you true economic empowerment. And as long as people are willing to let themselves get sucked into their phones and get sucked into live stream and all kinds of stuff, yeah, bread and circus, then it's going to keep happening. Carl says, "What is the situation about the tariffs? Did he revoke them?" Yeah, he's mitigating them now. You know, I think he's doing this to cause a lot of market disruptions because he wants to force the Federal Reserve's hand to lower interest rates. For all we know, and I don't know this for sure. I'm just hypothesizing. Maybe he's negotiated with Japan to say, "Can you please keep raising your interest rates? Because every time the Japanese raise their interest rates, makes the yen currency a bit more expensive, and it means anyone who borrowed, the yen, and there are a lot of people, there are tens of billions of dollars of yen that was borrowed when it was very cheap, and when the value of the yen keeps going up, a lot of these leveraged loans have to have a margin call, and this margin call has to get covered. And the only way it can get covered is if the people who took these very cheap Japanese loans and they bought like American stocks or bonds or something or crypto, they have to sell those to cover the call, and that could lead to a lot more to more market disruptions. Bruss said, "MBAs are the death of American engineering." I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, we used to have the best engineers, and we still do, but we have so few of them. There's no incentive. What do I think is going to happen in Ukraine? I don't freaking know. Like, I think Ukraine. I think what I think now is Russia is just rearming. They're just rearming. They're going to restock. Well, not. Sorry, they're not. Like, if there is a ceasefire, that's what'll happen. But from what I've been reading now, it looks like the Ukrainians are getting cleared out of Kursk. Russians are gaining. What the Russians have been gaining more territory in Ukraine. It looks dire, but it has looked dire before, and Ukraine has been able to keep swinging. What is the name of the chart I have pulled back on the TikTok stream? Hey, hello, Tyrell Lee. It's from this lady, Erica Barker. If you go to, if you do ericabarker.ai, she has all these articles, and this is one of the articles where they talk about, just what happens when the middle class starts deteriorating. Jeremy Jacques, is Putin going to accept a peace deal? Joey said he was in camo with Kursk, signing that he's getting ready for more fighting. That's all theater. We don't really know what's going to happen. I think if Trump really does put pressure on Putin, Putin will have to concede. Alex said, "You've cut back on your 401k deductions because of the stock market fluctuation. Is that a good idea, or should I keep putting money into my 401k? I'm not a financial advisor, Alex. I'll tell you what I've done. I mean, historically, I would increase my contributions when the stock market was looking bloody, but that's because I wasn't going to touch that money for like 10, 15 years. But I mean, who knows? Maybe the companies that I would have invested into today, maybe they completely collapse, and that's a bad idea. So, like, again, I'm not a financial advisor, so you have to speak to someone about this who's a professional. I mean, I may have the right answers, but I'm not a certified professional. Seriously, how could Americans vote for Trump? Because Americans are very easily fooled. For China, are they just sitting back? I think so. Now, Carl says, "Did I see the German DAX or the German stock Rheinmetall war industry?" Well, no. I am guessing that a lot of these defense companies, especially in Germany, are rising and making a lot of money. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump and his buddies had money in these companies. Artquatics, where can someone go and learn more about the stock market, economics, and finance, especially through these dire times? There's Kenneth Suna and Jessica Inskip are two finance people on TikTok that you should pay attention to. They're brilliant. They've taught me so much, so you should pay attention to those two. For economics, Christopher Clark is good, Erica Barker, Ked's Economist, Econ with Sarah. those are the ones I could come off the top of my head. If you listen to those guys every single day, you will have a good bead on what's actually going on in the markets. I don't know if we're going to see a universal basic income due to AI. We can't even predict what AI is going to be able to do for us. It's too early. Always buy the S&P and relax. I mean, I've heard a lot of financial advisors say that if people just did the right thing, then all the financial advisors would be out of a job because the S&P 500 seems to outperform a lot of others. So, guys on TikTok, sorry, people on YouTube, you keep hearing me say this, and especially anyone who's listening to the released recording. But on TikTok, I will not answer comments. I will only answer comments if you go over to YouTube and reach out to me directly. Now, Corbin Dallas, hey, that's a good name. China's trade surplus has almost 1 trillion. What does it mean? What can they do with that? It means that they're sitting on over $1 trillion US dollars. I mean, that's so when you enjoy a trade surplus, it means you have a very strong manufacturing economy. It means you are less prone, of course, to you are not relying on debt to fund your government like the United States or even Japan. But it's kind of good for the United States. No one talks about this. It's actually kind of good for the United States for the strength of the dollar to have trade surpluses, because it means these countries are holding $1 trillion or however many billions of dollars all around the world. And that's actually keeping demand for the dollar strong. And that means our dollar is strong, and that means it actually increases our purchasing power. Alex said, you feel like America should invest more in education? Absolutely, but the GOP doesn't want us to be educated. A lot of Democrats actually don't too, because then we're easier to manipulate if we're not. But yeah, you're right. I think it's been a long-winded effort, primarily funded by the GOP to to dumb us down. So guys, again, if you're on TikTok and you have comments, I'm only going to answer them on YouTube because TikTok doesn't monetize me, but YouTube does. Did I see the ongoing boycott on American products in Europe? Good, we deserve it. Tango 6. The U.S. had an inverted yield curve for over 600 consecutive days. Doge is just austerity for Fed rate cuts to refinance federal debt. Yes. Yeah. Well, no, that's what they're posing as, but I don't trust Doge. I don't think Elon Musk has honest intentions. I think he's just a subpar human being, and I think he's just going to take advantage of his position here. That's it. More of a speculation, but where do you see NATO headed with Donald's antics? I just see NATO spending increasing. I see other NATO countries upping up investment and fortification of Ukraine, but I don't see America leaving NATO. Hey, oh, it's I Love a Good Party. Hi, Sticky, aka. Good to see you, man. Hey, and thank you guys so much for migrating over to YouTube. So thank you, Sticky. Yeah, it's like I had some time. I don't have time to do so much stuff. Like sometimes I don't have time to shower for 2 days. Oh, hey, Will Westmoreland, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm on YouTube, so anyone who's commenting me or anything on TikTok, I'm just not going to be able to see it because I'm only going on YouTube. YTT fun. How do I feel about a Harris 28 or Governor? No, Harris is not going to win anything. I don't know. I think the Democrats have discarded her. Just saying, wishing you well. Oh, thank you very much, Sticky, aka. Guys, so I hate to do this, but I have to plug myself because again, TikTok cut my funding. I don't have any money. Well, I'm not earning any money this month. If you want to support me, please, of course, subscribe to my YouTube. Even more than that, if you want to support me financially, go to my Patreon. That's on my link tree. You could do it for as little as $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, and there are perks to each. I'm not going to explain them. I explained them in the beginning of this video, so when the video is over, if you want to figure it out, just go to the beginning. And also, if someone just wants to leave me random tips, like buy me a coffee, I would prefer to be tipped in a cryptocurrency called Algorand, and that's not an I'm not endorsing it. I just use it a lot. So I'm just heavily invested in their decentralized finance ecosystem. So it's actually cheaper and quicker for me to get tipped in Algorand rather than dollars. So I've said that I'd rather get tipped in less money for Algorand than more money for dollars. So anyone who owns crypto, and if you want to tip me in crypto, please just tip me in Algorand. I'd prefer that. Now let's see. John Sanchez, can I recommend any books or sources of information for people just starting into stocks? A random walk by a random walk down Wall Street. That was a good one. I forget it, something Lynch. I forget the guy's name. That's so sad. But that's a good old classic. But my favorite one for just overall money is a book I read like 20 something years ago called The Truth About Money. Elon taking all the blame for necessary spending cuts, a good public enemy, if you will. I hope that's true, Tango, but I don't think that's the case. Joshua Hahn popped over from TikTok. Over there, the background has a graphic from. Oh yes, Joshua. Hello. Okay, yeah, and yeah, I made a post. I made a post today admitting my mistake. So I just got so excited by her article, and I put in her metrics and I didn't double check it. I should have, because you were right. It was double counting the inflation. So I fixed it and I made a post about it. I mean, the middle class is still pretty screwed compared to the top 1%, but it was what you did was necessary. And thanks for bringing that to my attention. White Fun. Another in regards to the question, why do I think people are still attacking her so heavily? Because like people don't. Right now, the election is still fairly recent, and the Trump cult is very strong. So anything that's reminiscent of the previous administration that isn't Trump is just evil. That's why. So that's why she's getting attacked, I think. Now, inflation is down, prices dipping, CPI is up, market volatility is profitable if you're in it for the long term. Very good point. Aegis of the West. How do I think the U.S. will do with the CHIPS Act being nuked? I don't think it's going to be nuked. I think it'll be brought back, or something equivalent will be brought back, just because. I mean, it's such a money move for this country, and Trump gets to take credit for it. So I think that's going to be okay. Joshua Hahn, I agree. And I'm going to have, oh guys, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing the lady who wrote that article, Erica Barker. So Carl said that Biden was the GOAT. Yes. And especially compared to Trump. Biden was boring. And that's what we want in our government. We want a boring government. I just wish, only thing I wish Biden did was, I wish he gave more lethal, I wish he gave more lethality to Ukraine. I wish he allowed Ukraine to strike Russia the way Russia deserved to be struck. Do I have any candidates in mind? You mean for president? The only one I could think of right now is Jeff Jackson. That's all I have. But the thing is, even that I'm skeptical with. I think we need a career politician. Well, and if not a career politician, someone who's very good at making deals. Not someone who says they're good at making deals, whose cult says they're good at making deals. Somebody who's actually very good at making deals, like Biden. Biden was great at making deals, and I don't know who his equivalent is yet. And even if it's a Republican, I don't care. I'll vote for that. Because the thing is, what's funny is people assume just because I loathe Trump that I'm like a super bleeding heart liberal, and anyone who's spoken with me for a long period of time will say that I'm much more conservative than meets the eye, but I'm also much more liberal than meets the eye. I think I call myself more liberal than most socialists and more conservative than most Republicans. I'm a fan of small governments. I'm a fan of gun rights, but I mean I believe in like reasonable gun control. I am a fan of lower taxes, but I'm a fan of lower taxes for the middle class and the working class. But I'm a fan of higher taxes for the multi-billionaires and the corporations. And unfortunately, that's supposedly not a conservative thing, but historically that was a very conservative thing. And then when it comes to being a liberal, one thing that socialists swear is they believe in generosity, that things should be like public goods and everything. But I think people, they talk that and they expect the government to be generous, but a lot of these socialists themselves are not generous people. They're actually very narcissistic. Um, like perfect example, I have blasted out, like I have recommended, like, I don't know, 20, 30 creators, and some of them I doubled, tripled, quadrupled their following. I helped some people get such a following that they're on TV, and I haven't asked for anything in return, just because, like, I think there are some great creators and I want to use my platform to help them prosper, because it just seems like the right thing to do, you know? And I mean, and it's funny. Anyone who's an extremist will see me as the opposite of them. So of course the Trumpers swear I'm a liberal because they're extremists who are, like, really into the Kool-Aid. But then, like, socialists or people who are like uber left, they'll look at me like I'm a Trumper or a conservative. I don't even know what to call a neoliberal, but sure. Thank you, Risky, for the flower. Oh, I'm not supposed to say anything to TikTok. You're just supposed to watch. Oops. Aegis of the West. So Trump will put his spin on the CHIPS Act, so it's his baby? Exactly, Aegis of the West. Liberal conservative, Aegis of the West, that's great. So Tango RX says, state governments should fund classes for firearm safety for the masses and passing the class and a background check. Yes, there you go. I mean, if we need tests for driving, we need tests for guns. Joshua Hahn, middle class. You think, while it's true the middle class is technically better off than they were in the 80s, they're much worse off to the top quintile. Well, Joshua Hahn, I made a post saying just that. And the middle class isn't actually better off. Maybe they're slightly better off because, again, if you look at their average median income, okay, the income has stayed the same, but the benefits are smaller. They don't have a pension anymore. And I think there's less social help. There are less social safety nets that today's current middle class has. But also, I've said this, why did CEO pay go up 1,460% in the same time period when the middle class just saw theirs go up like 18%? Josh says, you tend to think of middle class as the middle three quintiles, smart taxes. I don't know anything about land value taxes, so if anyone wants to educate me, hop over onto YouTube and do it. Tango 6, I missed the last part of that. The background check should be an optional part to get a massive discount on a handgun. No, I believe in background checks. You're convinced the program should be funded directly by the police departments? Now that I don't know enough about. Why can't it just be funded by, like, local governments? And one thing, though, I think if you fail a background check in one state, you fail everywhere. Schrodinger's Trump. If something bad happened, it was Biden. If something great happened, it was... There we go, Carl. That's what I've witnessed. Aegis of the West. What did I just say that was so funny? Oh, hey, Uche Orso. So yeah, hey guys, so there are 17 people watching my YouTube. Can each of you please like this live video, because the more engagement I get, the more rewards I get. And my rewards are pretty small. I think I've made $25 off of YouTube this month. You know, my views are just very weak on YouTube, but apparently I'm getting $7 per 1,000 views. If I got $7 per 1,000 views on TikTok, my wife wouldn't have to work anymore, you know? Responsible ownership should be rewarded and long-term reduce reliance on police. Oh. I mean, that part makes sense. Now, Toaster says, where can we get the flowchart on my TikTok live? Go to ericabarker.ai, and she has the article, which is about the shrinking middle class. Oh, thank you, Karl Heinz. Jeremy Jacques, you're Canadian. It seems to you that a large portion of Americans, or at least the Trumpers, don't understand what a tariff is. As an American, yeah, most Americans, see, this is the thing, this is why American education is so poor. Most Americans are so uneducated, they think that a tariff is something that another country has to pay. People think that if we put a tariff on China for 25%, that China is paying 25% to import to us. No. The company that imports the Chinese goods, which is an American company, has to pay a 25% tax. So that's it. So China doesn't pay it. China suffers because, yeah, their goods won't be purchased later. but it's not actually it's not, there's no extra 25% income. China isn't losing, they're not paying anything to us directly. We're actually taxing ourselves with a tariff. Uche, oh, Ages of the West, like troops attacking in the like button. Yeah. Oh, it's working. Okay, great. Uche Orso, thank you for joining YouTube. Uche, I really appreciate that. Like, I know you're a big TikToker. You're a big TikTok watcher, and the fact that you came over to YouTube just for me means a lot. Corbin Dallas, what is my education background? How did I get into posting on TikTok? So, if you guys are curious, I have a bachelor's in economics, I have a bachelor's in mathematics, I have a master's of science in statistics. And I initially posted on TikTok as a crypto guy, like in 2021. I was the crypto hussar, and I really enjoyed it. But then the community got very toxic after 2022, and there were all these crashes, and I got censored a lot. So I just switched over to talking about my next favorite subject, which is geopolitics and economics. Kevin, are we going to cryptocurrency? Do you mean like as a monetary system? No. Joshua Hahn, for land value taxes, Google Georgism. Okay. Geo Husser, off topic. Am I gonna play GTA 6? No. I don't even have a PlayStation or anything like that. But what's funny with Grand Theft Auto is I've played it very few times at my friends' houses, and all I did was attack police officers. That's all I did. They were like, "Okay, the quest is this," and they'd be like, "Gio, why are you trying to beat an armed police officer with a bat? Oh, why did you just fire a bazooka at? Okay, just stop." And then I would just try to see how many stars I could get before I could get away from the cops. I don't know why. I can't help it. I just like to attack authority figures in Grand Theft Auto. Beth Day, hello. You taught tariffs to seventh grade. Oh, you taught tariffs as part of the state curriculum. They got it 61% on a recent U.S. poll. Don't. Yeah. Oh, they don't like tariffs. Oh, that makes sense. William Young. Yes, I am live. Slava Ukraine. Putin cool. Yeah, Putin coolio. Trump coolio. Yeah, exactly. Tango 6. Tariffs are only part of the strategy. Yeah, I get that. But the thing is, you're saying part of the strategy, but it's like part of the strategy and it's hurting the American consumer. It's hurting the poorest and it's also hurting the middle class. You got tired of crypto a few years ago. You're pretty over it, William. I completely understand. So I still dabble in crypto, but I'm heavily invested in Algorand and I use their decentralized finance ecosystem every day. I even use the ecosystem to like get interest on just my dollars, but that's just for me. It's risky, and the money that I have in the ecosystem, it's money I'm willing to like risk, kind of. I sound like a stats guy, GSCL. The funny thing is, guys, I'm actually a humanities guy. I like history. I like history, and I love literature. I liked all that stuff. I also have a propensity for mathematics and fact keeping. Spreadsheet user, any idea of rumors on what's going on at the SSA? No, I don't. I have no idea. All cats are beautiful, William. I like it. Carl, you think that there's going to be an economic slowdown when GTA 6 releases? Yeah, people stop coming to work. Joshua says, you can try to explain Georgism as best as I can. Basically, land value is a kind of socially created or natural wealth, and supply of land is fixed. It can't be taxed without deadweight. Oh, it could be taxed without deadweight loss. Okay. All right. And Joshua, I just want to apologize to you again. I get like 500 or 600, sometimes 1,000 comments a day, and most of them are toxic that I don't even respond to. So I think I was a little dismissive of you at first, and I wasn't very polite, and I'm sorry about that. I really, once you went deeper, I realized I was like, okay, this guy might be right, and then I just started like researching and calculating, and I got in touch with Erica, but like I didn't hear back from her for a while, and I even like kind of lamented this to an economist. I'm like, oh, I think I really messed up. But I'm just sorry that I feel like I was rude to you, Josh. So, sorry about that. My bad. Now, Jeremy Jacques, exactly. So typically the importer paying the tariff. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Walmart apparently is negotiating with China, um, because Walmart does have the power to kind of mitigate that. And for all we know, China will just lower the value of their currency to match the tariffs like they did in 2018. Yashida Beast. Okay, Tango, do I work for Doge? No, I do not. Oh, sorry. Best sources to learn crypto. On TikTok, crypto commentary. He just tells you how crypto and the overall market, and then there's conversations with Even. He does a more humanitarian thing on crypto. There's William Watson. He really does a huge macro covering of it, and then Alex Popovic will tell you like what's actually going on with crypto, how it's actually being used. I think those are really good asset sources, and they don't tell you how to trade it. They're telling you how to live crypto. Beth says, if tariffs are meant to increase U.S. revenue, why do we need to turn around and provide subsidies to agriculture? Exactly. You just said it. Beth just said it. It's like if it helps the economy, why do we have to give subsidies? Ages of the West. It's ironic. Tariffs are hurting the people who voted for them because the people who voted for them they're not educated, and they will do mental gymnastics. And even intelligent people do the same thing. And of course, it's Joe Biden's fault. Ogbe Whale. Yeah, I don't have a background on YouTube because YouTube doesn't supply it. You want to hire me for promoting propaganda? Yeah, get in line, and the answer is always no. Like you guys have no idea how many offers I get to like talk up things, and I always say no. You know, I get 5 or 6 offers every day from TikTok, and then every other day I get offers from crypto people or some stupid firms, you know, or even like some international exchanges, and I'm just like, nope, sorry, I'm not interested. The only 2 sources I've accepted money from were the Brennan Center for Justice, where they're a think tank, you know, connected to NYU, but they said that they just wanted me to talk about the elections, and they were like, people just need to know that the system actually works, and if people vote for Trump, it's a legitimate vote. If people voted for Harris, it was a legitimate vote. You know, like if Trump wins, that's not because of election interference or anything like that. It's like this is what the people chose, and so you know, and I was like, okay, I admired that, so I took money from them, and then I didn't take any money, but when I went to the NATO summit last year, the State Department paid for my hotel, and they paid for my flight there, and they paid for my food. But I didn't get any like money to like take home and do stuff with. Tango RX, tariffs hurt manufacturers more for offshoring done post NAFTA. So you're saying tariffs? See, the thing is, I like the idea of tariffs promoting offshoring, but if it comes to manufacturing, that takes years. And if you speak to anyone who knows about any economist, any finance expert, they'll tell you that the tariffs will do much too much damage in those years while the manufacturing sector is being like repopulated. William Young, tariffs are an inflationary tax on the poor. Yep. But again, the poor are mainly uneducated. They voted for Trump, and Trump doesn't care about the poor. So for him, it's a win-win. You're kidding. You enjoy the conversation. Where did I get my education? I don't reveal private details. What is my favorite AI at the moment? I use ChatGPT. Last time he subsidized large farms, bought out small, and raised prices. Yep. Corbin Dallas, regarding geopolitics, why did Biden continue Trump's tariffs? He continued them on China, but he took off the EU ones. William Young, some are worth it, but most aren't worth tanking reputation. Yeah, exactly. And also, I just don't want to hurt people. Tango says, not all tariffs. Yes, that's true. So Tango 6, this is where we agree. If we do a strategic tariff on like particular products, then yes, it works. But you can't tariff all steel. That's stupid. You only approve of NATO propaganda when it's anti-Russia. It's it's mainly not propaganda. Some of it is though. Some of it is. Like I don't like I gave NATO people a lot of crap when they were saying that Russia could start World War III. I don't think that Russia they're like, well, if Russia gets Ukraine, they'll invade Poland. I don't think so because Russia will never ever touch NATO. The problem is what well-informed people don't get. Many people want to make their life as simple as possible. Most people don't want to be informed. Yep. William Young, 5 to 10 years to build up that manufacturing. And yeah, there was no point to have the tariffs if that's the case. So Bradley Caracos says, do I follow the Intel guy? Do I like his takes? He seems to be MAGA, but he actually makes me consider. Yeah, he's MAGA. We heavily disagree on that, but we agree on, we agree that our current president makes idiotic mistakes. We agree that Russia and China are the big threats we have to worry about. We agree more than we disagree. William Young says, only targeted tariffs, and I'd enact them as American supply came online and mandate government-funded projects. Wow. You know what? That's such a good idea, William Young. Yes, you're 100% right. By the way, guys, everyone on TikTok, I'm really sorry that I haven't responded to your comments, but I only respond to comments on YouTube because I am no longer monetized by TikTok. So Aegis of the West says, exactly, people want to live their life on autopilot. Yes. Yeah. And our system kind of trained people to be that way. And, land, well, let me see, Joshua Valley. Okay, land that was populated in late. Okay. Was to replace all other taxes with a single tax on land value. Oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of cool. Now, Carl says, do I know Yuri Bezmenov? I've heard the name. I've probably heard him speak, but I can't remember. Now, here's another thing about the autopilot thing that I just read, because this is very important. We should all be paying attention to this. The autopilot thing is true because we are so much more anxious than we've probably ever been in the past 100 years. There's so much anxiety. People are so anxious. They're so overwhelmed in so many different directions. So they don't want to handle the anxiety of knowing how something is or how something's done because they have so much other crap they have to deal with. And I'm not sure if that's orchestrated, but it's definitely a tool that the system can use to keep people wanting to stay ignorant. Adam Smith, another classical economist, also thought of land tax as the ideal tax base. I agree. So, guys, tell me more about Bezmenov. Now, Tango says, America should 1,000% push for reindustrialization, especially considering AI and robotics. I think we should push for more self-reliance. I think we should push for more self-reliance when it comes to rare earths. But I don't want dirty industrialization because that's a lot of negative economic consequences that can hurt the population. Heavy industrialization is never going to be clean. So I want, we take for granted how clean the air is and how healthy everyone is relative to, let's say, the people in China who deal with the results of heavy industrialization. Or just go back to 40, 50 years ago. Ask your parents or your grandparents how dirty the air was. William Young says, talked about destroying USA from within, dividing us. Oh, the Soviet spy guy. Yeah, but that's always been the plan. Can I say a bit about how my thinking process was to stop being from the left and believing in Obama as a good president? Sure. Will stocks continue to drop? Snark tips? I don't know. I don't talk about that. I think Obama was decent when it came to domestic policy, but he was a coward when it came to foreign policy. We should have helped Syria more. We shouldn't have, we really should have helped. We drew red lines. Assad crossed them. Nothing happened. Obama was weak. We drew red lines with Russia. They still annexed Ukraine, attacked it, annexed it. America did next to nothing. The support that Biden gave Ukraine, we should have given more than that in 2014. And Obama didn't want to rock the boat, and that was so cowardly. And I get it, but he should know the history that when Russia makes a grab, they're going to keep grabbing, and it's going to get worse and worse. Russia needed to like be stopped with a boot on their neck back then, and they were weaker. We could have done it, but we didn't because Obama didn't want to rock the boat. M. Long, should we be subsidizing manufacturing instead of tariffs on other countries? Yeah, 100%. Or just build infrastructure. That's it. Now, Tango says, you're fully convinced we should tap Yellowstone for geothermal power. Why not? I don't know enough about Yellowstone, but why not just maximize every cheap natural source of power? I'm glad you agree with my Ukraine and Syria stance, William. Will Trump destroy the dollar? No, that's lunacy. If Trump was a threat to the dollar, he would have had a heart attack long before the election. Alex Sanchez, what is my opinion on capitalism as an economic system? It's great, but capitalism needs to be regulated by an educated and active voting populace, with which the majority of people are not. They are not. So if you have capitalism and a stupid population like we have, then this is what happens. This is where we are. William Young said, we should tax the rich for infrastructure and loans to build minerals, processing, and William Young, 100%. Well, I'm glad you guys agree with me on TikTok. But again, if you have any questions for me on TikTok, please go over to my YouTube. If anything, you remove all tariffs on the inputs. Yes, tariffs are bad for trade unless they're specific against a product or a company. Why did I choose to monetize YouTube or TikTok? It's okay, Alex. TikTok just pulled my funding for no reason. They gave me no warning. My account was in good standing, and they just pulled it. They said, community guidelines violation. I have no idea why. I've appealed it. It's been 2 weeks. So I'm struggling. So YouTube just monetized me, but it's so small. I'm getting like $25 this month from YouTube. So, so the more you guys watch my YouTubes, the better. It also allows me to plug myself. If you guys want to support me financially, go to my Patreon. There are like $1 options, $5, $10, and there are perks with each of these options. I think like with $1 a month, you get access to like a bunch of other content that's not anywhere on social media. And if you pay like $5 or more, then you get Patreon only lives, which it might actually be coming this week. I'm not 100% sure. But then you also you will get highlights of my like interviews with experts. So instead of listening to a whole thing, you could just listen to like the key, like let's say the most crucial parts of the interview, where there's like actually the most data. And then with 10, you can chat with me directly, and there are subject chats that I just started making, like BRICS, China, Russia, or if you just want to talk about something else, and you get to be part of you get to talk with me directly because I always respond to them. I always respond to everything on Patreon, but those chats are very close to one-on-one or just a few people, and it's that part's a community for like-minded people. You're right, Joshua. Crimea was a Neville Chamberlain moment. TikTok, yeah. Thoughts on the efficacy of China's Belt and Road Initiative? I mean, it's great in a lot of ways for the world and those countries, but these countries are in debt. A lot of them can't pay the debt, and China is in a bit of financial dire straits, so it's kind of hurting them now. But if these countries get through it, and so does China, then it's just going to make China so much wealthier. My thoughts on Mexico and the government is that I think their economy was doing so well, their currency was doing so well, and then when Sheinbaum got elected and they chose to elect their judges instead of federally appoint them, that led to a huge disconnect in agreement with the United States government and Mexico's government. I think the Mexicans might be right to do it. It's up to them to decide it. We don't get to tell. We shouldn't get to tell any country how they elect their representatives. But I think their economy is going to struggle, especially if the tariffs keep, if they go back up or if they get extended. Thank you, Alex, for saying that. Joshua Hahn said, Yellowstone, have you heard about enhanced geothermal? There's a good... Oh, no, I would love to check it out. Bradley Carrico, Geothermal is only good for specific things. You highly recommend the great courses, Audible course, The Science of Energy. Yeah, sure. Geothermal is great in certain areas for certain things. And I think, but we have, like we can't do wind power everywhere. We have to have the better environment. We can't do hydropower everywhere. But we can't do tidal power. But there is the most economical place to do each of these things. Like Wyoming is perfect for windmills, even though it's conservative coal country. They're building windmills like crazy because it's so windy. It's the most economical form of energy, and they get to export it. Oh, so the Stein. It's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. This is my Stein. A lot of the government should be operated as an AI supercharged series of apps. See, our government is bloated, and we do have to deal with that. Hey, Drew, thank you. Good to see you. What's the deal with the ferment cement? I have no idea what you're talking about, Henrique. Snark, what do I think is the future of Europe economically wise? Defense. Alex Sanchez, if I take a look at the numbers of how climate change might impact the U.S. economy, well, yeah, it'll definitely lack of water and also take away a lot of coastal land. Do I think Ukraine's going to have to give up land if there's a peace deal? Well, Russia might try to force it. But if Ukraine gets enough help from Europe, then I don't think they'll have to. More higher, okay. Oh, thank you for saying that, Yaspis, that I'm a good creator. Decline. All right, so guys, I have to go. It's been an hour. This was a lot of fun. So this is gonna go on YouTube. It automatically will download. If you have any additional questions, feel free to go to my Patreon and ask them. And if you're not a paying member of Patreon, $1 a month. $1 a month, and then like just throw a comment in and I can answer that comment. But there you go. I'll see you guys. Follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram, and if you want to financially support me, join my Patreon. All right, wonderful people. I'll talk to you later.